What's up guys, my name is Ace, and it looks like I have finally found a use for the rear grip attachment in Warzone for the Black Ops Cold War weapons. For those of you guys that haven't been paying attention to this, since the Cold War weapons dropped, these rear grips have done essentially nothing on the guns. Even though they tend to state that they help with aim down sight time and flinch resistance, in all of the testing that I've done, as well as all the testing I've seen from True Game Data as well as JGod, none of us have found any sort of noticeable difference with these attachments. So even though they state they improve your aim down sight time, in our tests they either didn't improve the aim down sight time at all on any of the guns, or if they did, it was an extremely small difference, like 5 milliseconds for instance, which is completely negligible when we're talking about aim down sight time. You aren't going to be able to notice the difference there, and therefore they're obviously not worth it for aim down sight time. Same thing goes with that flinch resistance. In Cold War's multiplayer, these attachments help with flinch resistance, which means when you're shot, there isn't as much visual flinch when you get hit by a bullet. So your screen won't really move at all when you get shot if you have a good flinch resistance attachment. But in Warzone, this just didn't appear to do anything to flinch. So up until this point, there's really been no reason whatsoever to even touch these rear grip attachments. However, like I said, I've finally found a use for them. And it turns out some of these actually impact recoil, which is very, very surprising and potentially very useful as well. So let's just dive right into my recoil plots here with the rear grips on the FFAR to start with. We'll look at the AK-47 as well, because that one has a totally different recoil style, and I just wanted to see how it would compare with different recoil styles. But with this, I made sure I leveled the bottoms perfectly across all of these recoil plots so we can see just how much that magnitude will change. And I'm also going to draw this white line across here, and what this white line is it's the average magnitude of recoil that I got with my base recoil tests. Since it's not perfect every single time, this sort of just averages it out, and therefore this is our baseline magnitude that we're looking at. And let's first start it off with the speed tape, which is the first rear grip you unlock, and this one very clearly reduces recoil on the FFAR. This is quite an obvious recoil reduction, and I'm going to compare this a little bit later to our best foregrip on the FFAR because it's actually quite comparable. It's very surprising. So the speed tape is great for reducing recoil on the FFAR. Next up, we've got the drop shot wrap, which doesn't appear to affect our recoil at all. This seems to hit that baseline magnitude pretty much perfectly. Then after that, we've got the field tape, and while the field tape doesn't really obviously reduce our magnitude of recoil, because there is some inconsistency between these two recoil patterns, one thing I noticed with this is it does seem to tighten up our horizontal recoil a little bit. There isn't as much side-to-side bounce while using the field tape, so this may actually help a little bit in that area, but it is hard to say for certain because there is always a little bit of randomness with recoil. But after that one, we have the jungle wrap, which doesn't appear to affect our recoil at all. Then the serpent wrap, which looks like it helps a little bit with our vertical magnitude, but not a large amount like we see with the speed tape. And then finally, we have the airborne elastic wrap, and once again, this one's just a little bit inconsistent. And due to that inconsistency, I can't say with absolute certainty that this reduces recoil. The main thing to point out with this though is the speed tape definitely is helping with our recoil on the FFAR. And this is where I wanted to compare it to the best foregrip attachment for the FFAR, which is the Field Agent Grip. And this is the one that states that it reduces recoil, and it actually does. And when we compare that side by side with the speed tape, they are actually relatively comparable if you were to average out the magnitude of the Field Agent Grip. So this was a very surprising result. The speed tape literally only says that it helps with your aim down sight time, but it's definitely helping with recoil here, roughly to the same degree as the Field Agent Grip. And this is where the really interesting part comes in. I wanted to see what would happen if I combined the speed tape with the Field Agent Grip. And it turns out it actually does. This is what it looks like when you combine these two attachments together, which gives you a massive reduction to your recoil with the FFAR. This is an absolute game changer if you're trying to make the most accurate FFAR possible. And I believe nobody else has really figured this out yet, or I haven't seen anybody talk about it yet. This definitely has the potential to be a game changer. Now, I do want to be clear that I don't know if this applies to every single gun in the game. That would require many days of testing. However, this is something I'm going to start including in my attachment breakdown series where I share the best attachment combinations for each of the more popular guns in Warzone, because it looks like we can now do a whole lot better than we used to think we can do when it comes to recoil on Cold War guns. So yeah, that's the FFAR, which is a super popular gun, but like I said, I wanted to try a different gun as well that has a totally different style of recoil, and this is the AK-47. The thing with the AK-47 is it's got a lot of view kicks, so your actual camera itself kicks upward really quickly, not just the gun kicking upward, and that's something that really holds the AK-47 back in this game. So with this one, I once again tested every single one of the rear grips and compared it to our base recoil, and I've got that white line at the top that shows our base magnitude for the recoil. And with this one, it's actually quite interesting. It looks like all of the rear grips are helping at least a little bit with our vertical recoil. And out of all of these recoil plots, once again, that speed tape does give us the best potential recoil out of all of these. And since that's 2 guns in a row, at least for now, I would say it's a fairly safe bet that the speed tape is going to give you the best recoil reduction out of the rear grip attachments, at least for assault rifles. Again, a lot more testing will need to be done on this on various weapon classes and everything, but I did want to get this information out to you guys as soon as possible, and I will be doing more tests on this down the road. But just like with the FFAR, I did want to compare this to the best possible foregrip attachment, and this on the AK-47 is the Spetsnaz grip. And as we can see here, the speed tape clearly isn't quite as good as the Spetsnaz grip when it comes to recoil control. And also, if we combine these two together, on the AK-47, it doesn't really seem to stack quite as well as it does on the FFAR. Now, I would say this recoil pattern is still a little bit better than just the Spetsnaz grip alone, but not to a large enough degree that it would be worth stacking these two together, in my opinion at least. So this is why it is going to be important to go through basically weapon by weapon to see how these interact with each other and whether or not they stack to really significantly improve recoil. But with that, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today's video. Going through these grip attachments, they still aren't helping with aim down sight time, at least not to a noticeable degree, and it also looks like they still don't help with flinch resistance. However, many, if not all of them, seem to help at least a little bit with recoil. Out of all of them that I've tested so far, though, the clear winner appears to be the speed tape, which is nice and convenient because that's the first one of these that you'll have unlocked on a Cold War gun. And I would even go so far as to say, if you are leveling up a Cold War gun and you're relatively early on in the levels and you don't have a ton of attachments unlocked, you may as well throw that speed tape on there to give you at least slightly better recoil. There's really no downside to using it at all, aside from the fact that it takes up an attachment slot and it doesn't actually do what it tells you it's doing, which is improve your aim down sight time. But as far as a temporary measure goes to reduce recoil until you unlock one of the better underbarrel grip attachments, seems like a pretty good option, and it also looks like, at least with some weapons, combining this speed tape with the best underbarrel grip attachment could potentially give you the best recoil you can possibly get on that gun. Of course, this is where I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. First up, what do you guys think about the fact that some of these rear grips appear to help with recoil control? And second, do you see this recoil reduction as a big enough reason to start switching up attachments on your FFAR, for instance? Are you going to drop one of your attachments and start combining the speed tape with the field agent grip in order to get a really, really good recoil pattern? Or do you feel like it just doesn't help quite enough to be worth that sacrifice? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.